He didn't notice I was gone until the stage lights started flickering, and his voice crackled through the speakers like a dying roach under a boot. 5 minutes earlier, I was still crouched behind the velvet curtain, clutching the emergency laptop like a stagehand waiting for a miracle. But then I saw him do it, walk on stage with my build, my architecture, and zero credit. Not a thank you slide, not a whisper of acknowledgement, just his oily grin under too much foundation, peddling my blood sweat sprint like he'd coded it himself while sipping bourbon in Maui. The worst part, I wasn't surprised. See, 2 months ago I was running point on the entire infrastructure. Every alert, every node, every burn it down and rebuild at 2 a.m. fire drill. I knew that system like I knew my own pulse. Unstable, twitchy, but mine. Then came the transition. No warnings, just a forwarded HR email and a subject line that read, "Internal realignment effective immediately." I opened it thinking maybe I'd gotten promoted. Nope, my new title, Technical Support Strategist, which, in plain English, meant get coffee, smile pretty, and plug things in when the big boys forget how HDMI works. I confronted him the next day, cornered him in the elevator like a bat out of hell. "Support strategist?" I hissed. "Is that what we're calling sabotage now?" He smiled that politicians smile, the one he practiced in the mirror after ruining people. "We need strong people in the back end." "You're the foundation, Lisa." "Foundations crack," I said, "especially when people build palaces on top of them without permits." He didn't laugh, just stepped out and let the doors close between us like we weren't on the same floor anymore. Fast forward to today. IndustryCon 2025, ballroom packed with suits and sycophants. He was set to debut Project Parallax, our supposedly revolutionary load balancer, which, fun fact, he still didn't know was tethered to my deprecated API tokens. I could have fixed it. One line of code, one flick of the wrist. But support doesn't include miracles, so I walked. Right as he clicked into the live demo, I slipped out the side exit, my conference badge still warm against my chest. Backstage, techie with a headset muttered, "Why isn't it loading?" On stage, his screen froze. In the audience, hundreds of investors blinked, then dead air. I heard the silence crash like a dropped chandelier before I hit the street. But the story didn't start there. It started 3 weeks earlier, the night I found his second phone. The one he kept hidden in the server room. That's when the realignment stopped making sense, and everything else started to. I wasn't snooping. Let's get that straight. I was in the server room because a Kubernetes cluster had gone rogue again, something only I knew how to fix, apparently, even in my shiny new support role. He'd locked down admin access, of course, said it was for streamlining security. But guess who still had the override script baked into a forgotten cron job? While the servers rebooted, I sat on the floor, half-eaten vending machine, granola bar in my mouth, watching logs scroll like panic attacks on fast forward. That's when I saw it, wedged behind the UPS battery unit, tucked in a rat's nest of Ethernet cables and passive aggression. A black iPhone, cracked screen, no case. No labels, no markings, but it buzzed with the desperation of a guilty man. I froze. You ever hold something and know it shouldn't exist? That was this phone. I cracked it open. No passcode. Classic ego move. Probably thought no one else would ever get that close to his secrets. Inbox had 6 unread emails. One caught my eye. Subject line said, Keynote deck, remove her name. I opened it. From Neil at Execonnect AI to Marcus Dwyer at Parallax.com body. Got it. Rebranded as yours. Lisa won't know until it's live. Smart move. Let's talk equity next week. Equity. He'd sold them my work, stripped the credits, left my name like a roadkill stain on the dev logs. I sat there, knees bent, surrounded by humming machines and corporate rot, and something in me snapped so quietly it was surgical. This wasn't sabotage. This was erasure, and I wasn't about to let that happen quietly. I copied every message, every calendar invite, every greasy Dropbox link from that phone onto my personal drive, uploaded a clone to a dead FTP site I used back in college to torrent obscure French horror films. Then I placed the phone back exactly where I found it. Let him wonder how the storm found him. Next day, he strolled into the office with that cologne-clouded arrogance that made interns second-guess feminism. Patted my desk like I was a rescue puppy. Need anything, Lisa? Water? Pat on the back, I smiled. Nope, just waiting for the keynote. Because now I had a plan. Not just to crash his moment, to own it. He thought deleting my name from the deck deleted me from the story. He forgot who built the script, and how easily I could rewrite it. He made one mistake. He thought I wouldn't dare. You know what happens when you shove someone underground for long enough? They learn how to mine, and I had just struck gold. The week leading up to the keynote, I played the part. Brought donuts to meetings, laughed at his joke about junior engineers being allergic to deadlines. Nodded along during that all hands when he said, "Leadership isn't about control. It's about vision." Yeah, then why was your vision using my Git history? While he rehearsed his speech in front of marketing interns and fake investors, I stayed late. Support hours, right? Answering low-priority tickets, logging fake bugs that I resolved instantly. But in the background, I was setting up the storm. 3 key moves. I recompiled the backend demo server under a ghost subdomain, same interface, same UX, totally different brain. I rerouted his access tokens to expire the minute he launched the live feed, and the piece de resistance, a hidden banner embedded in the fallback screen. Black background, white font, one sentence, ask Marcus who really wrote the code. It wouldn't appear unless the whole system failed. But if it did, if he crashed and burned mid-keystroke, wouldn't just look incompetent. He'd look exposed. And I made damn sure that risk was real. By Friday, my chest buzzed like a cracked circuit board. I barely slept. Drank cold brew like it was priest-blessed holy water. My hands shook, not from fear, excitement. The kind you feel when you finally stop waiting to be saved and decide to do the saving yourself. Then came the final rehearsal. He stood on that stage like a TED talk villain. Real-time load balancing is about trust, he said, clicking through my architecture diagrams. And Lisa's been an incredible team player behind the scenes, where she shines best. Behind the scenes, like a janitor, like a ghost. I watched from the shadows. My palms itched, my mouth was dry, but I smiled, because the countdown had started, and he still had no clue. That night, I got a Slack DM from Neil, the exec whose email I'd cloned. Short, smug, excited to see the demo live. Should be a game changer. It would be, just not the way they expected. The trap was set, and the curtain was about to rise. He strutted onto that stage like he owned the oxygen in the room. Spotlights caught the flecks of gray in his too perfect hair. The kind of gray that says I'm wise, not I chain smoke stress. Front row lit up with camera flashes, VCs, board members, influencers who wouldn't know a CLI from a CVS receipt. Marcus Dwyer, our visionary CTO, savior of the hybrid cloud. The ballroom hummed with pre-launch hysteria. The keynote title flashed behind him in 10-foot font, Project Parallax, the future of load intelligence. There it was, my baby, stripped of its mother and dressed in someone else's tux. I sat off stage behind the black curtain, earpiece buzzing, hands folded, clipboard in my lap to sell the illusion. Logistics girl, coffee fetcher, humble support. He opened with his usual performance, some story about how he got the idea during a trip to Chilum, watching ocean waves crash with perfect timing. You see, he said, pacing the stage, nature doesn't overcompensate. It adapts, it balances. That's what inspired Parallax. Nature didn't inspire Parallax. My third caffeine-fueled breakdown in the server room did. But sure, tell your beach story, he smiled. Click to the next slide. The demo screen took over. The crowd leaned forward. This was the big moment. The live interface would load. He'd show seamless data routing in real time, the miracle of autonomous server calibration. Except it didn't, not immediately. First, there was a stutter. Then the screen blinked. Then it froze. Marcus paused, clicker still in hand, like he could force it to obey with enough ego. Another click. Nothing. It happened. The screen flickered once, twice, and then went completely black. Gasps scattered through the ballroom like popcorn in a microwave. Then the message appeared, big, bold, unavoidable. Ask Marcus who really wrote the code. Silence. You could hear someone's water bottle hit the carpet. Marcus stammered. We're experiencing a temporary hiccup, but it was too late. People were already turning. Phones went up. Texts flew. One guy in the third row whispered, "What the hell is this?" Loud enough to echo. Marcus tapped his mic. "We'll be back online shortly," spoiler. He wouldn't, because I'd pulled the plug on everything. Backup servers, redundancies. Even the emergency access panel was rerouted through an encrypted shell that only I knew the password to. That wasn't a crash. That was an execution. And I wasn't done. As Marcus begged tech to restore the previous build, I slipped backstage, opened my laptop, triggered phase 2. The real Parallax build, the stable, working one, began streaming live from my own GitHub. Branded, watermarked, time-stamped with months of commit history, my name on every line. The audience screen split. One half frozen, one half flowing clean, crisp, and unmistakably mine. I didn't crash his keynote. I replaced it. And for the first time in his hollow little career, Marcus Dwyer had nothing left to say. Security found me exactly 7 minutes after the split screen went live. They were polite about it. One of them even called me ma'am, but the tension in their knuckles said we were told you might be unstable. I smiled. Don't worry. I already backed up my sanity to an external drive. I handed them my conference badge, shut my laptop, and walked with them like I'd rehearsed it, because I had. For weeks. Every hallway, every turn, every camera blind spot. The time Marcus caught up, his face was the color of undercooked chicken. His voice cracked like a puberty flashback. Lisa, what did you do? I turned around, slow and deliberate, held his gaze. You said I was support, so I supported the truth. He tried to puff himself up, classic predator bluff, but his voice couldn't keep pace with the imploding reality behind him. The whispers had already turned into buzz, buzz into noise, noise into fire. Somewhere in the ballroom, someone was live streaming the chaos. I knew because I watched it flare across Twitter like a flare gun in a fireworks store. #Codegate, #Keynote crash, #Dwyer exposed within 15 minutes. Parallax Systems was trending. Not because of the tech, because of me. Marcus Dwyer's demo fails. Unknown engineer hijacks live keynote with working version. Anonymous dev claims code ownership. Cites deletion from credits. CTO caught in live lie. Anonymous, not for long. By the time they walked me to the side exit, my inbox was swelling. Journalists, recruiters. A few venture capitalists asking if I wanted to pivot into leadership. One email simply said, "That was the most beautiful takedown I've ever seen." Coffee sometime? I didn't respond. Not yet, because Marcus wasn't done, and neither was I. He followed me into the parking garage. Still red-faced, still sputtering. Torched your career. You understand that, right? I turned. He was standing under a flickering light like a bad noir villain. You think that code was yours? He barked. It was company property. You worked for me. No, I said, stepping in close enough that he could see the burn behind my eyes. I worked around you. While you were busy hosting wine mixers with venture leeches, I was duct taping that architecture together at 2 a.m. while bleeding through my shirt. He sneered. Nothing without us. I pulled my phone out, opened the email I hadn't shown anyone yet, forwarded it to him right there. It was from Exec Connect's legal counsel. Subject, equity fraud and attribution misconduct, urgent review required. I watched his face twist as he read the first few lines. He hadn't just lost the room. He'd lost the one thing he built his identity on, perception. And perception, once cracked, shatters like brittle glass. He didn't speak again, just stood there, trembling in silence. That was the first time I'd seen him truly afraid, but it wouldn't be the last. By Monday, HR called me like we were old friends. Lisa, just wanted to touch base, see how you're holding up, said Angela from People Ops, voice chirpy like a wind-up therapy doll. There's been some noise. Noise? Try detonation. By then, the crash had gone viral. The clip of Marcus stammering, while the screen flickered, Ask Marcus, who really wrote the code, had racked up 2.3 million views and counting. Even Gizmodo ran a headline. Woman engineer hijacks keynote after CTO demotes her, delivers actual product. But Angela wasn't here to talk about justice. She was here to assess liability. We're doing an internal audit, she said, careful and practiced. Leadership feels it would be best if we placed you on paid leave while we clarify responsibilities. Ah, I said. So this is the part where the truth gets called a compliance issue. She sighed. Lisa, just between us, some of us are rooting for you. Sure, Angela, from behind your ergonomic keyboard fortress while I'm out here ducking NDAs and legal fireballs. But I didn't need HR's pity parade. I already had something better. 3 days earlier, it sent an encrypted folder to a contact I hadn't spoken to in years. Danny Tran, former engineer, current investigative tech journalist, and someone who still owed me a favor after I covered for her when she blew a production build by deploying drunk during a breakup spiral. She didn't disappoint. Her headline dropped that afternoon, The Invisible Engineer, How Parallax Systems Tried to Erase Its Real Architect. Screenshots. Time-stamped commits. Slack threads with me coaching Marcus through his own damn platform. And then, gold, an audio clip from a private meeting where Marcus said, laughing, no one cares who wrote the code. They care who sells it. The audio hit like a backhand. By Tuesday, board members were demanding answers. Parallax stock plummeted 11%. Marcus deleted his LinkedIn. And me? I sat in my kitchen, eating leftover pad thai with chopsticks I never quite mastered, watching the world unravel from my laptop like a slow-motion symphony of karmic justice. Then came the call I didn't expect. Neil, the exec connect guy. I almost didn't answer, but I wanted to hear the tremor. Lisa, he said, things got complicated. We weren't fully informed about your role. Is that what you call rewriting history? Being underinformed, he hesitated. Look, we want to make this right. We believe there's an opportunity here for leadership. Autonomy. We're expanding. I nearly laughed. The same man who rubber-stamped removing my name from the deck was now offering me a seat at the table because I flipped the damn table over. Neil, I said, you didn't see my value until I put it on a 40-foot screen in front of your investors. Why would I ever trust you again? Silence. Then he muttered, you're turning down a very generous equity package. I smiled into the receiver. I'm not turning it down. I'm building something better. I hung up, and in that moment, I realized this wasn't revenge. This was escape velocity, and I wasn't done burning yet. Thursday morning, I woke up to my face on the cover of Fast Company. Okay, not my face. Just the back of my head in a grainy screenshot from the Keynote stream, framed by that infamous banner, Ask Marcus who really wrote the code. But the headline made me blink. The ghost in the system. How one support engineer rewired a company's future. Fitting, that's what they made me. That's what he wanted me to stay. Silent, obedient, applauding from the shadows while he played puppet god with a platform I built by bleeding into it. But I wasn't in the shadows anymore. The story had legs and claws. Investors were now calling it a leadership crisis. Interns were leaking Slack messages. One even posted a video of Marcus berating a junior dev over a bug I had already patched 2 weeks before the incident. I'm stamped, filed, and ignored. By noon, I got an invite to speak at Women in Code 2025. Panel topic, Surviving Erasure, How to Speak When They Mute You. I didn't accept, not because I was afraid, but because I was building something else, something cleaner. A week before the keynote, I'd quietly registered a domain, ReconCodio, bought with my own money, hosted on my own stack. A platform for devs like me, the ghosts, the shadows, the scaffolding, people who built the world but never got to name it. Now it was live, bare bones for now. Just a manifesto, a blog, and a Git repo with the real Parallax engine. Unchained, refactored, open source. Within hours, devs started forking it, commenting, sending DMs like, holy crap, this code's beautiful. I've never seen load distribution handled like this. Why aren't you the one keynoting conferences? And my favorite, this saved my startup. Saved my startup. Funny how truth moves faster than PR. That night, my inbox pinged with one final message from Marcus. Subject line, we should talk. I opened it, just one sentence. You've made your point, now what do you want? I stared at it. No apology, no ownership. Just panic disguised as diplomacy. I cracked my knuckles. Typed. I already have it, Marcus. The difference is I earned it. I didn't hit send. Not yet, because tomorrow, you'd finally see what support really looks like when it walks on stage without asking for permission. I showed up to IndustryCon the following Friday, uninvited, uncredentialed, and absolutely unstoppable. Wore all black, no logos, no name tag, just quiet intent and a thumb drive with a storm inside. Marcus wasn't speaking this time. Parallax had canceled their follow-up panel due to restructuring. Translation. The board had finally yanked the puppet strings and were now busy rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. But the keynote slot hadn't gone empty. They filled it with a round table on integrity and innovation in tech. Cute, right? Like trying to mop up gasoline with a TED talk. I waited until the panel started, walked up to the AV booth, flashed a lanyard I'd printed at home and said, Tech from Dev Panel. Audio's clipping. The guy nodded, waved me in, never even looked at the badge. 2 minutes later, I patched my drive into the live feed, overrode the default input. The panelists were mid-sentence, something about building trust through transparency, when the screen behind them glitched, then flickered, then changed. First, a title card, you cannot delete the architect. Then the real show began. Screenshots of commit logs, voice clips, a rolling timeline of Parallax's internal sabotage. My name stamped across code. Dates, builds, pull requests. The crowd froze. One woman gasped. Someone else muttered, oh my god. Then came the last slide, a link. ReconCodio, and underneath it, my face. Finally. Not hidden behind someone else's ego. Not buried in the version history. Front and center. The panel was dead silent. A moderator stammered, we weren't aware this. I stepped onto the stage. No mic. Didn't need one. My name is Lisa Zhang, was Parallax's lead systems architect until they rewrote me out of my own work. I built what they failed to understand, and now it belongs to everyone. Security started moving again, slower this time, but before they could reach me, the crowd stood, one by one, and they clapped. I turned, walked off stage, and straight out the side door. No arrests, no lawsuits, no begging, just noise behind me and clarity ahead. Marcus tried to reach out again after that, said he could rehire me, offered a public apology, said we could collaborate. I ignored him. Last I heard, he's consulting for a crypto startup run by a 23-year-old with a neck tattoo that says CEO Energy. As for me, Recon Code has 30,000 users, 8 full-time devs, 4 major partnerships. And every time I walk past a mirror, I nod to the woman who burned the system down, not out of revenge, but because she finally remembered she'd built it. You're the real stars of the corporate jungle. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe, or I'll flick the switch on your old cubicle memories.